Okay, welcome. This is a walkthrough to Steelray Delay Analyzer 0.7.0. And we are going to start here in the upper left corner with the concept of data sets. I'm going to click this open folder, and this is how you bring your XER files into Delay Analyzer. And as you can see here on the left hand side, I have a list of data sets that I have already loaded. Now, what is a data set? It's just simply a collection of XERs. In this case, I've got one XER, but it has two projects in it. And I'm going to show you how to bring it in. So first, I'll show you how to delete it because I don't need two of them. So I just click on this data set. It is highlighted, and I click this trash can, click OK, and it's gone. And now the next one is loaded. Okay, but how do I bring it in? You can probably guess. I click New Data Set, and I have two buttons here, and it just depends on which way you want to bring your files in. If all of your XER files are in a single folder, then you just pick that folder by clicking Browse for Folder. So for instance, here I've got some folders. Let's do this one. That has the files that I wanted. I click Select Folder, and they're in. Okay, so I have this new data set. It's called Finish to Finish Scenario. It got that from the XER file, but I'll call it not Dimple, but Simple Example. When I click Analyze, it is now loaded. And how do I know it's loaded? I go back up to here, and click, and there it is. Okay, so I've got it loaded. I will click it. There it is. Click Analyze, and we are in the file. So what we're looking at is a network diagram view, but it's a little bit different from other ones that you may have seen. The primary difference is that instead of going from left to right, we go from the bottom to the top. We always stick this finish milestone in there, even if there is a finish milestone, to just guarantee that we have one. And if you hover over it or any node, you're going to see information about it. It's a milestone, so it has no start. You can see a finish date, a duration. Again, it's a milestone. And of course, float, which is 0 because it's critical. Now, we also know that it's critical because it is on this path of A1020 to A1030 to finish, because we know that it's critical because it has that black, much darker line. You can still see relationships over here in a much lighter shade of gray. Okay, so let's walk around this view and learn what it can do. For starters, right now we're just displaying the activity code. I don't have to. Okay, and if I hover over a node, I'll still see the activity code and the name, which is D. But I can also, besides displaying the activity code, I can also display the name. Just depends on your preference. So that's what this control is here. Okay, near critical links, if I select that, we start off at 0, which means it's only going to display strictly critical. But if I go to the right, you see that the secondary path there has turned yellow. And this is a slider that lets you determine where you want to set that threshold. In this case, it looks like it's only a day or two near critical, that meaning a day or two of float. So that's what this does. I'll turn that off and we'll go back to the standard view. Okay, the other thing to know is when I hover over a node, you get that information about it. I showed that to you before with the finish milestone. That works for everything. And then down here, we have the ability to color the nodes depending on their Wbs. Now, in this case, I don't have much of a Wbs. In fact, there's only one level, so of course everything's brown. but you would be able to descend into the WBS and color the nodes based on their value. You can also do it by calendar. This is maybe a bad example, although in this case it looks like there are 2 calendars in the file, but the 4 nodes that we're looking at all use the standard 5-day work week. And you can play with that and see what other ways you want to do it. Okay, this will make much more sense on a bigger file, especially with your data. Okay, so we've kind of taken care of the top left corner and the bottom left corner. The right-hand corner is fine. That is not working perfectly yet, so I'm not going to play with that, and I suggest you wait for a newer version to do that. Let's look at the top right now. This is the timeline view, and what it is showing you, it's breaking down the changes for you, the delays. When you see, and all 3 of them have it, a little bar graph here, be it red or be it a blue color, you're looking at a delay or an acceleration. Delays are red, accelerations are that blue color, which we're not seeing right now. Okay, so this is the weekly timeline. You can also go down to a daily timeline, and it will break things down to you day by day. There is a minimal view where we try to consolidate as much as we can and really just show you the minimal amount in this view. And then there's the other end of that, which is delay set, where we are actually walking through the delay analysis, and we're showing you periods like this one, which is Friday 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., where we did have an impact on the finish date. And we'll stay here for a second because it's good to show you these controls. I can move down and up using these 2 buttons. I can also use, and you can't see this, but I'm using the down cursor arrow and up arrow to move through it as well. When you don't see anything here, that means that the finish date was not impacted in this period. This is non-working time from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. So that makes sense. Okay, so let's look at an individual delay. I click on it, and I can see that the finish date has moved 1 day, so that is a delay. It's red. If I look down here, I get an analysis pane. And so we are seeing the period, the impact to the finish date, and as simple an explanation as we can give about what happened. So in this case, it was a critical activity that was delayed, and it was postponed by 1 working day. This is showing you working time, and then there was a gap, which is non-working time, and then another gap. And again, the impact on the finish date seems redundant, but if you have a bunch of these could certainly be different values. Okay, so we have pretty much covered the network diagram view. We've covered data sets. This is a control that allows you to switch between the network diagram view and the one that you're probably more familiar with, the Gantt view. So that's pretty cool. You can hop over to the Gantt. You can hop back into the network diagram view. Well, let's take a look at the Gantt. So the network diagram view, first of all, is not on a timeline. So this level right here is not designating a certain point in time. We do that in the Gantt. And the Gantt chart traditionally moves left to right, and we do as well. You see this yellow bar here. That is really representing the status date or data date in Primavera. And it as you can see, when I hover over it, the cursor changes, and that's because I can drag it in forward in time. And when I'm dragging it to the right, I'm going to have you look here for a second. When I drag to the right, what I'm doing is navigating through. But you can also see some movement here in the Gantt chart. So what is going on? As I move to the right, this gray is showing completed time. And you saw C kind of do a jump, right? Because there is no progress over the weekend, over the non-working time. So that's why when I drag left and right, nothing is happening to C's finish date. But now when I get to Monday morning at 8 a.m., it's still moving. And so C, which we could see that right now C is the critical. What's actually happening here is C is moving, but A is delaying, and A is about to become critical. And as I move to the right a little bit more, now that A to B path has become critical. You see that? Okay, but now C delays more, and C is now moving the finish date. If I want to drag things to the left, I just click the left mouse button and drag. And by the way, you can do that in the Gantt view. You can do that in the network diagram view. Okay. So this control, moving the status date, is really useful as well. Some other things in this view is you can zoom in and out, and that's an important one. To zoom in and out, I hold the control button down, and I just use the mouse wheel. Up is how I zoom out, and mouse wheel down with the control button down is how I zoom in. So that's a good thing to know. So another little trick, and this is a great thing to know as well, is that I can, let's suppose I am looking at this Tuesday 8 to 5 period, and I see A1020C. And imagine, actually let's not imagine, let's open a bigger example to show this. So I'm going to open up this data set, the UDCSS. That's going to take a few seconds. It is 30 snapshots of over 1,000 activities. Okay, so I'm going to go to a random place. Actually, I'll even move it almost entirely off screen. And I go to this particular duration forecast changed an event, and I see DEM 1060 demolition. I want to go there. Okay, if I click once, it pans and takes me right to that activity. Now, this is an interesting example because unlike the circle nodes, this one is more like a capsule, and almost like an oval. And so what that means is that there are multiple activities in there. And if I hold the control key down, it stays, it doesn't go away. There's demolition. And you see how it's a link? That's because I can click on it and it hops over into the Gantt view and takes me there. Another, let's find a single one. Okay, that one is also in a capsule. Let's find, okay, let's see. Actually, most of these are, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Let's go deeper into the file. Okay, let's see about 1060. I click, and there it is. It's still inside. But you get the idea. Completed activities are hollow, so they have a border around it. And then this is also a good time to show you what the Wbs coloring looks like. So I am going to click on WBS. Everything is this brown color because we're only one level in. So I'm going to go into construction, into vertical construction. Okay. And now we have the nodes that are colored by the WBS color. Okay, so you can see that. And to see the critical path changing over time, well, we probably want to go near to where we are. We're pretty down in the analysis. I'm going to scroll back up. Okay, now let's watch the critical path. And I'm going to just start cycling through. Okay, so far we're not really seeing any changes to it. I'm going to change the coloring back to none so we can see more of the network diagram. Okay, there we go. We just saw something change. There we go. We're seeing very, very minimal changes. Now, what are these dashed lines? Why are they not solid black? Well, we needed a way to represent something that technically wasn't critical, but only because it could slip in a non-working period. In other words, it had a little bit of float technically if it went, let's say, over a weekend on a 7-day calendar. But these other activities may have been on 5-day calendars, and they're not strictly going to be impacted in my example because of the difference in calendars. And if you wanted to see difference in calendars, we can do that. There we go. And so what that looks like, as you can see, most of them are on this one calendar, the UDC 5-day work week, it looks like. And here's a 7-day milestone. Here's a 7-day milestone. This stuff is very tricky to see in Primavera. And so find that this is a really helpful view. And sure enough, you can see in this area here that there are some calendar changes. Okay. I think that covers the basics and gives you a good idea of what to do in this application. And so I am going to wrap it up. Happy analysis.